Welcome to RoxTalks. My name is Roxanne Wilson, and I'm always excited to be with you, so that's not a shock, but I am excited to be with you. And today I wanted to talk to you about branding. Why? Because I know you're hearing from so many, like you got to have your brand, or you're seeing people in your upline or your downline or your around line with a brand, and they're doing all these things. You're like, should I be doing this? No one told me I should be doing this when I started my network marketing company. What am I supposed to do, and how do I figure it out? Well, rather than just hear me spitting off about it, that's my new word lately, spitting off. I don't know why. I wanted to bring in a branding expert so that you guys can hear from her how to get this party started. Her name is Helen Tremethick. And Helen she's amazing, but she's a sought after brand voice strategist, coach, and copywriter whose value driven approach to communications is rooted in clarity, simplicity, and relationship with the audience. So important. She helps scaling entrepreneurs and small businesses move their business into the next sphere of their work with just the right amount of love and get a load of this badassery. Love that. She is the creator of a content development methodology that she has been teaching to entrepreneurs, innovation centers, and the corporate sector since 2014. And since 2010, her work has influenced and helped hundreds of business owners find their voice and garner more traction in the online marketplace. She's also the CEO of the Communications Distillery. It's a boutique branding studio located in, get this, an old farmhouse in the middle of the Ontario countryside. She's Canadian, which means that if you ever hop on a coaching call with her, you may just hear roosters, but I'm going to tell you right now, there were no roosters. I was listening for them. I did not hear them today. So sorry about that. But the conversation is great because we're going to go into how to figure out how to even start the process of figuring out your brand and where you really go from there. So be ready, listen to the nuggets, put it on replay. If you're running around, if you're doing your gym thing or you're driving, put it on replay and get back to this because there's so many good things in it. So let's get started. Helen, it's so great to see you. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Hear your message. So thank you.
I'm so glad to be here.
Now, before we get started, I should mention you are in Canada.
I am Actually, most people I know don't use the word a, which is very funny. I think it's because there's an urban accent and a rural accent here. And I think they're urban folk like us just don't have the A's.
Don't have the A. Well, that's a little bit disappointing. If you could put it in during
and definitely a number of sorries.
Yeah, sorry, and a boat. Can you just
and a boat?
That? No, it's good to have my neighbor from the north. I'm really excited to talk to you today because the trend that is going on in network marketing is, hey, you need to be, and I'm a big believer in this, like, don't be a flat Stanley. I've been saying that for years. You have to have a 360 vision. You have to have a 360 view. That being said, people go into network marketing thinking, great, I can just support and like talk about my business. Now I have to have a brand and I have to do things like a podcast or a blog or a whatever it may be. And what I find is a lot of people are asking me, how do I figure out my brand? Now, I can give them, the top level, but you go deep. This is like your wheelhouse. So I'm so glad you're here to talk about this. And if you can walk us through exactly how someone in the network marketing world, like how do they even do that? How do you even know what your brand is if you've never had to brand yourself before?
Oh, absolutely. And, this is a question that people ask across the board. When you're in business for yourself, whether you're a network marketer or whether you're doing your own thing, you still have this overarching question of, how do I stand out? Mm-hmm. How do I find clients who really resonate with me? How do I pay the mortgage doing this thing that I love? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the work you said, I go deep. I do. I love it. I love jumping right in the deep end. I'm terrible with the small talk, and I love like mucking around and like, but who are you really? And that's really the question that it comes down to. Why did you choose this particular company to affiliate yourself with? Mm-hmm. And by diving into those deeper questions of why you were attracted to this particular company, who you really want to be working with, who you really jive with, when you start answering those questions, start uncovering those answers, that's when you can really find your rationale behind your brand and not just mirroring what the company is telling you.
I love that. So I love that. So you're saying to look at why you joined the company in the first place.
Yeah, there's this the idea. So I don't want to go too in depth right now, but there is a way that people connect online that has to do with who you are and who you're speaking with. So in my world, I call this the Captivate Content Development Methodology. You don't have to remember that, but the idea behind it is that there's your brand. Who are you? And then there's that resonance piece. Who are your people? And together that creates your brand voice. So your brand is who you are, what you're selling, how you solve people's problems. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. How are you solving your people's problems? How are you filling that gap? And then the other piece to it is how do you tell your people in a
Mhm.
language that they understand. And together that's your brand voice. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing your own thing or whether you're doing your company's thing. We can talk about the nuances of that in a second, and I'd like that. But the idea of representing who you are, why you've been attracted to this company all along, really what your deeper motivations are, that's what your people are going to be attracted to.
So it's showing all kind of your vulnerability is what you're
It
saying.
is.
What
It is without airing out all of your dirty laundry. But yes, showing your real, genuine self. People already know that they need a solution to their problem.
Mhm.
And and there are people who are not problem aware. That gets into the deeper psychology of marketing. But for the most part, the people that you'll be speaking to in a network marketing situation, they're already problem aware. They already know that they have a gap in their lives that needs to be filled. They already know that. It's not, but it's you that they choose. So, and I think a lot of us get really caught up in trying to push what we sell as opposed to trying to show who we are.
Mhm.
So, and because people will choose you, they already know they need that solution, but people will choose you over another provider because of who you
Ooh, that's good. We know we have problems. We know we're
are.
not perfect. Don't need to tell us that. Why is it you as opposed to anyone else who's selling what you're selling or any other store or you can just hop on and get a solution for?
Absolutely. A little story, there's a local fitness coach. She's amazing. I really like her. And part of the reason why I really like her is not necessarily the company that she's representing, although it's really great that I can get fitness videos anytime that I want, etc. What I like about her is it's some tiny little pieces that make me quite attracted to who she is. She's a firefighter and a beekeeper, both things that I think are really cool.
That's super
She's she's tattooed and a mom of three, and her kids go to my kids' school, which gives me that extra local depth. That it makes me connected to her on other levels other than that I can access videos anytime I want. That is a benefit for sure, but I'm attracted to her because of how she brings herself to the world. She's very real, she's very straightforward, she shoots from the hip, and I really like that about her. She doesn't mess around, and she talks about health from the inside out, and that really connects to me as well. So it isn't so much about the company,
Mhm.
although there are features and benefits that the company provides. The reason why I'm attracted to her as a fitness coach is because of who she is.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is, well, there's so many nuances in that, just that example you gave me. Okay, so of course, we know we need health and fitness. She's offering something that you could probably get from several different places. I can already tell. I know who she's
Mm.
with. Like, so that being said, what you like is you resonate with her because you feel like you guys could be friends.
Absolutely.
So that feels pretty good. Like you feel like she knows you. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, she sees me on a level. I see her on a level. I know that she understands what it's like to be in my shoes.
Mhm.
I'm not a firefighter or a beekeeper, but I have kids and I have tattoos, and and I'm like to be a bit of a straight shooter, and so we connect on a level where I feel understood, and that's the real key. Is that
Mhm.
you want your audience to feel like you understand them. You
Mhm.
want them to know you and like you and trust you because they already know they need the thing. So it's the question of whether they choose you or over somebody else. And they'll choose you because of who you are and how you understand them. And it's okay if you're not for everybody. You're not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. That is a good thing
Mhm.
because it helps people self select.
Mhm.
And it means that we don't have any icky client relationships, which we don't want, our clients don't want. So the better that you can help people self qualify in first, sooner, easier, faster, the better it is for everybody involved.
Which makes you feel more successful about whatever you're doing. So like my clients who are doing things on Instagram, if they're able to self-select and what if they're able to allow people to self-select through the funnel, then the people that are coming to them wanting product are people who they're going to convert faster because they've already decided you're my person.
Exactly.
I like that. Let's go back to your example because again, there are so many great things in there. So what you said well, you said a lot in there, but what you said, one of the things you said about her was that she was able to talk to you about health from the inside out. So she's not
Mhm.
just offering her product. It sounds like she, again, that 360 view, the product is one of those things that she's offering.
Exactly.
So how does someone who comes in not having any experience with social media, having very little experience with just talking to people, maybe they worked a 9 to 5 or they didn't work at all, and now it's like, okay, now you've got to do all these things, these marketing components. How does someone find their brand in that and build the other pieces? The product is one piece, but how do they build that comprehensive and yet organic and authentic rest of the pie?
Slowly. Very, very slowly. And I don't mean to be cheeky with that at all. That But we cannot learn all of the things, and there are a lot of things to learn because once we start our own business, we are expected to wear so many different hats: the accounting hat, the sales hat, the marketing hat, um, all of it, and be very good at it. So that's a lot to learn all at once when you're trying to gain new clients and do the work with the clients as well. You have to be the visionary and you have to be the implementer and you have to be behind the scenes. There's a lot involved. So when I say slowly, I don't mean to be cheeky. I just mean to give your audience permission to learn at their pace
Mm.
and to choose what is right for them. Instagram is a great avenue. Um, it, to connect with people, and you don't get lost in a hole of Facebook cat videos, etc., and which is a real thing.
Right.
So Instagram is a really great venue to start playing around with Insta stories and the hashtags that are going to work for you. You can start looking at other models who are not necessarily in your own brand,
Mhm.
but are adjacent, who are doing this really well. What hashtags are they using? What hashtags can you use in order to really attract those people that you want to attract? So there's a lot just doing it all at once. So I think what I would recommend to come back to are two key things. The first is to give yourself permission to just, like, this is a lot, take it as it goes. And the second is to be consistent, keep showing up, keep trying. A really great friend of mine, she says one of her best business tools is to show up and be helpful. If
Wow.
you can keep doing that consistently, then then that's when you're going to start seeing that traction. And it isn't overnight. So it's a matter of slow and steady wins the race.
Yes. And I know we look at other people and we're like, oh, they just did that overnight. But if we dig a little deeper, realize we just saw them, but they were doing
Mhm.
it for a long time. So what you said about allowing yourself, like giving yourself permission to just take your time. What I like about that too is as you take your time and do it, you are creating these super fans. You're creating these people who they love going on that journey. They love going, oh my gosh, I was with her when it was just like her and I and like three other people. And now look at
Yes,
her. And they are going to be your best fans and your best, even if they're not buying from you. Because there's some fans that are just going to watch you and enjoy you, but they're going to be the ones who are just screaming you from the rooftops, which is a great.
absolutely, absolutely, and that is a valuable asset in and of itself. So
Mhm.
of course you need people to be buying your services. You need people to be buying in, or you don't have a business.
Right.
But there is great value in really getting those super fans as often and as authentically as you possibly can so that they can then spread the word themselves. Hey, you've got to follow this person.
Mhm.
Hey, you've got to get on their account. I love what they share. And you're right, it may look like it's overnight, but it isn't. We all heard about Lizzo talking about how she actually released that song 2 years ago and nobody paid attention at all until some people started paying attention. And
Mhm.
then it really snowballed for her. So it seemed like she was an overnight success, but she wasn't. She has been like busting her butt for years.
Mhm.
And only now is she selling out stadiums.
But she
So,
showed up and she was consistent.
exactly.
Yeah, and she found her voice. Okay, so we're finding our brand. We're realizing that we need to go deeper than we got to show people why we joined the business in the first place. And if
Mhm.
you joined it just to make money, then you kind of need to dig a little deeper, don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because people are going to feel that. They're
Mhm.
going to feel that um, it'll feel like a grab. And that doesn't, we all know, we've all walked into those stores where there's somebody up in your face spraying you with perfume and pushing little leaflets on. We don't want that.
Mhm.
We want to feel like we have the choice, and we want to feel chosen, both.
Mhm.
That's like, we want to feel understood and liked and appreciated and valued.
To
All of
know
us do.
and be known. Yeah,
Know and be known.
that's.
Yeah, to choose and be chosen,
Mhm.
because because business is still, it's still reciprocal. We're just using money as the thing that we're trading. And the vast majority of us in both of our audiences, Roxanne, are people who appreciate relationship sales. It isn't just an exchange of, thing for money.
Mhm.
And there are examples in our lives where, we actually just want to like go to the grocery store, buy our flour, get out, not have to like
Just
go deep with
Amazon it.
anybody
Just
about it.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
There are places where we want to hit that fast and easy button, but not when it comes to our health, our bodies, our families, the things that we really, really deeply care about.
Mhm.
That becomes more relational. And when we can start talking on a relational level, who am I? Who are you? Why is this a really good solution? Why have I chosen it? Why do I think it's going to be good for you? Because I understand where you are. Once we start talking, having that conversation, that's when we make it less transactional and more personal.
That's good. That's good stuff. So when we go back to figuring out why we joined and we share that story, but also I think that sometimes we think that you start a company, a network marketing company, and it's like, okay, I've got the box, about the box, and this is all I need. And you get so tunnel vision to like, I'm just gonna do whatever they say, which I mean, I'm saying that what they're saying is wrong, but that's not gonna help you find the rest of the pie.
Absolutely.
Gotta find the other eighths or the other 16ths of the pie, but it's a good place to start. Like you said, why did you join? but then going deeper and thinking, how does your product work with overall wellness, whatever. I'm just saying, wellness is an example, but how does it all fit?
Mhm.
How can you be a complete package to someone? So how do you go deeper once you figure out why you joined? How do you keep going on that path?
Well, that's a really good time to start exploring who your audience is.
Mm.
What are they motivated by? Where do they live? If you're operating locally, where do they live? What is their situation? Um, what do they need from you? Once you start exploring who your audience is, then you can start finding where that mashup is, right in between that little sweet spot of who you are and what you offer and what they really, really need from you. And, to reference that same fitness coach lately, she's on Instagram. She has a great presence. She does Insta stories all the time, and you can really get to know who she is. And she was selling on Instagram as well, but where she found her real niche was in weekly drop-in classes. One
Mm.
of her kids plays hockey at the arena, so she is at the arena for hours on end on a particular evening every single week. And there's a room upstairs with windows that she can look out onto the ice. And she found that she was going up there to work out while she was waiting for her kid. And she realized that if she invited people to join her while she was working out, just a drop in fitness thing by donation, then what she's doing is she's really increasing her brand on a very hyper local level
Hmm.
while she waits for her kid to finish her hockey practice. So that's where she really found uh, some traction, the traction that she was looking for.
And I bet
And,
she tells people about that on Instagram so people
and
see
she
it.
tells people,
Hmm.
are you going to come? We're going to be there. I'm going to be there anyway. We're going to do this. Like, these are the things that you're going to need to bring. And she has a really regular fan base who are showing up every single week for a drop in fitness class where they watch one of the streamed videos online. So people are getting that connection as well. She has pamphlets out. She says it's not a hard push at all. She's like, this is what I do. It really works for me. If you want to, let's talk.
Okay, so there's that's pretty genius. I love that for so many reasons. First and foremost, she's giving the FOMO feel so people around the world can watch her on Instagram and be like, "Oh, she's doing this." Events are something that I know are tripping up a lot of people lately because they're planning all these events and nobody shows up and it's like, but she's using time she'd be there anyway.
Exactly.
And so if nobody shows up, she still gets her workout. She can still talk about it on social media and she's still showing what she's doing. But if people show up, awesome. And then it also gives her an extra stream of income. But also it people who've never seen the videos before then get a demo. She's giving them a sample
Hmm.
of it. And again, she's got to be there anyway because she's sitting there watching her son play.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. What I find interesting about what you just said is and I think people can do that in different ways, right? Is thinking about how you can utilize the product or something around the product to really bring people into a community. And she's creating that local community feel as well.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah. If you're connected with an essential oil company, then you'll wear your favorite scent. And when you go to meet your friends at the coffee shop or what have you, you have a hug and they're like, gee, you smell good. Oh, and it doesn't. So what I am saying is that my friend incorporated it into her life.
yeah.
It wasn't just a business venture. It wasn't just her asking for the sale.
Mhm.
She incorporated it into her life, and then she asked her life if they wanted to join.
That's brilliant.
Very relational, very personal. And I know that this plays out specifically for her,
Mhm.
but it wasn't laid out obviously by the company.
No company, no upline taught her to do that. She had
Exactly.
to think outside of the box. But you also hit on one of my favorite topics, which is target market. You have to know your target market. And typically, your business is going to teach you that your target market is everyone. And it's
And it's not.
not, not. It's
It's not.
it's not. And I know that's hard to actually swallow.
Yeah, everybody is not a niche.
No. It's hard for people to swallow because that's one of the first things they're told when they're thinking about joining the business. So, I mean, I could say it till I'm blue in the face, and it takes me a lot to get blue, but why would you say that's not accurate?
Well, for the same reasons we were talking in the beginning about self-qualification, that and building super fans, really building a loyal fan base. If you're trying to sell something to everybody, your that loyal fan base are they're not going to feel known, they're not going to feel understood. So let's take it back to the words target audience,
Mhm.
referencing the word target. So if you have a target on a wall, you're at your local axe throwing gym or whatever,
Cool.
and because it's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And you throw your axe, you're going to throw it at the target. And because you have that target, you are far more likely to hit it because you're aiming at the same thing every single time. And you probably won't get bullseyes every single time. I don't know if they call them bullseyes when you're throwing axes, but whatever. You won't get in the middle of the target every single time, but you will get on there because you're aiming at the same thing. If you did not have that, you would have axes all over the
Mhm.
and so the same goes for your marketing, knowing who you're speaking to, or even close to who you're speaking to, not necessarily the bullseye. But if you're aiming in the same direction, again, consistency, if you're aiming in the same direction every single time, you're far more likely to get the points on the board than if you weren't.
I love that. I love that. You have a better chance of success if you know who you're actually targeting and that
Absolutely.
everyone. It also helps you. I think, when a company, let's take your friend for example. Let's say the company came out with a workout program for babies, and she's not, and her target market are people who've already passed that point. She's not going to spend a lot of time promoting this workout program for babies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that means that she's not wasting her time. She's not wasting her clients' time. And that makes everybody feel far better
Yeah.
because we already know that we have the problem. In this case, we already know that we have the problem. We already know that we need the solution. Our choice is whether we're going to choose her or somebody else. And if we had just had a baby, then we're going to choose somebody who is specializes in baby fitness, baby mama fitness.
Yes.
And um, and if we need a mobility device, then we're going to choose somebody who specializes in, or at least is very well trained in, people who help people who need mobility devices.
Mhm.
So being able to, and that doesn't mean that you have to specialize necessarily, but it does mean that if you're speaking to the same sort of people every single time, and again, hyper local could be your people. Like, I'm actually only working with people who are within like a 5 mile radius or what have you. But so you can niche down in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be just the company or you know babies or gender. You
Right.
can niche down in any particular way, but directing your conversation to one kind of type of person will, with that rationale behind it, and that rationale is usually often your own,
Mhm.
then that's going to give you the traction that you need, and maybe you'll expand out later. But in the beginning, try and get as focused as you possibly can.
I'm going to be bold and talk about. I've never talked about this on podcast, but an actual real world example. I won't name the company, but some of the listeners will know. There's a skincare company, premier skincare company, and their target market, while they do really want like to expand and be multicultural and all these things, really their target market is Caucasian.
Mhm.
So imagine my chuckle when they put on their and again, you have to be like McDonald's, right? You got to go to everybody. I get it. But they put a picture of a black man wearing one of their masks, their skin masks. And I thought, oh Lord, help me now, because I know I'm going to see this picture on a bunch of consultants' Instagram pages, and I'm going to have to ask them, just out of curiosity, how many black males are you trying to sell your product to right now?
Yeah.
Just because your company does it does not mean you need to copy it, because it may not be. If black males are your target market, then yes, get excited about that picture and put it on every day. But if they're not, don't waste your time. You're wasting your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and also there's something, I think it's really important that there are, because we're saying it, I think it's really important that there are companies out there who are targeting Black men and skincare. I think that's really, really important.
Hmm.
And as a representative of your company, you need to understand who your market is, where you're going to be most successful.
Hmm.
And like you say, if your target is Black men, great.
Hmm.
And and I want us to also be appropriately critical of the messages that we're being given by the companies and decide whether or not it's right for us. Because at the end of the day, you're the representative and your clients are the people who are going to be um, experiencing that. So we need to be an appropriate filter between the company and what we're saying, what we're marketing out there, and whether that's right for us.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that if a black man comes to you and says, I want your skincare, you're not going to say, I'm sorry, you're not my target.
Exactly. And that's the thing about that axe throwing gym reference, right? Just because there's a bullseye doesn't mean that you're not going to take the points on the outer rings.
Oh, that's so good. Yes. Take the points.
Take the points. Take the points. Aim for the bullseye, take the points. And the bullseye isn't the same for me as it is for you, as it is for any of the people who are listening.
Mhm.
So that is where we come back to, who are you? Why did you do this? Why this company? What's your story behind it? Who do you really love working with? And get really clear about those things.
Mhm.
And that's what designs that target.
So would you say, because again, people are feeling this pressure, you need your brand and now you need to do a podcast. I can't tell you how many people are like, I need to do a podcast. And I'm not saying they don't, but when they come to me saying I need to do a podcast with the fear and the terror and not the excitement, I'm like, why do you feel like you need to do a podcast? Or why do you feel like you need to do a blog? What would you say to that person who feels like they just need to because they saw someone in their upline doing it, and it must be working, and so I've got to do it too.
Oh, right, absolutely. Because everybody's doing podcasts, and so therefore I must. I have a take real umbrage around the shoulds in the marketing world. So I would say a couple of things. First, just because that person is doing a podcast does not mean that they're successful at it.
Mhm.
What we see online is just the very, very tip of the iceberg. And there's a whole world underneath that we don't see behind the scenes because everything is heavily curated, everything is heavily filtered. We don't see the whole story. So, let's not make assumptions around what success is for other people, especially if that person is living with a partner who makes most of the money and they don't need to bring in very much.
Good.
That may well be the case where if you are the primary revenue generator in your family, then you're looking at very different playing fields.
Mhm.
The other thing is that podcasts, and we're just using podcasts as an example, we could use blogs as well, but podcasts are very hard to produce.
Yes, they are.
It takes, right? It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of outreach, and often it takes people behind the scenes,
Yes.
which requires a certain amount of revenue to support those other team members. So, right.
I used to do it myself, and I finally was like, so I was like, okay, I'll get some people to help me. I have 3 people who do my part. 3 people
Mm-hmm.
to do what I incorporated, and I'm like, wait, how did I do that all by myself? not very well. But
Right?
you're right. It takes a lot behind the scenes. It
It
does.
takes a lot. And if you have that time or that energy or that money, that's really more of an and or. If you have that time and or energy and or money
And
to
desire.
and desire
Mhm.
to put that forward, then we can move on to like the next phase, which is like, are your people interested in podcasts? Do they listen to podcasts? Because if they don't, this goes back to that target market. If they're not listening to podcasts, then there is no point in you putting one out because they're not there. They're not listening. You
Right.
want to go where your people are.
Mhm.
And often I find, especially in like the network marketing world, people do listen to podcasts or they listen to audio because lives are busy. And so they're not able to, so they'll listen to a podcast while they're doing the dishes or with it. So they won't necessarily sit down and read a blog. But many people, the blog is not dead. Many people are still choosing reading over listening.
Mm.
I'm one of them. I don't listen to a ton of podcasts. I feel pretty choosy when I go through, and when I do, it's because I live on a farm, so I'm out on the lawn tractor, and it's a great time for a podcast. Or I'm doing the dishes. It's because I'm consuming audio content while I'm doing other things in my
Mm.
life.
Mhm.
But choice, I often choose to read. And so this comes down to knowing your audience. So
Yeah.
should you have a podcast? Maybe. But don't assume that the podcast is the track to success.
The holy grail, the magic
Yeah,
pill.
it takes a lot of energy and money and time to create one, and if you have that, great. And then like step three is, if are your people there? If so, yes, then all of your maybes turn to yes. And if they aren't, and again, we're using podcasts as an example, but we could say blog, or we could say Instagram, we could say Pinterest, we could say Facebook, we could say LinkedIn,
TikTok. Are they on
we
TikTok?
could say TikTok,
Why do you
right?
need to be there?
Right, exactly. My people are not on TikTok. My people have seen it come and don't understand it, and that is fine, because we are in a generation that just is just not into TikTok.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who will find TikTok very, very beneficial,
Mhm.
and that's great. So again, like, don't make the assumptions. Do you have the time and energy required for this initiative?
Mhm.
Are your people there? And if your people, find out where your people are and then start exploring whether you have the time and energy for those. My people listen to podcasts, they read blog posts, and they're on Instagram. So where am I going to spend the majority of the energy that I have? Because that's finite. Where will I get like the best bang for my buck?
Right. And I also think with all these things, we're using podcast as an example, but if you want to blog, you're like, oh my gosh, I need a blog. You need to take a moment and go, okay, what are you going to blog about? You have
Hmm.
to find vision. And part of that is doing, like you said earlier, you'll find that vision. But if you're thinking, I need to start a blog, then why don't you start writing longer Instagram posts
Exactly.
and
Absolutely.
really cult and see and find your vision of what you would talk about? Then you can decide, I'm going to invest in the website and all of the things to do a blog, but you can start the beauty of it right there on Instagram.
Absolutely. And if you find that writing isn't your forte, then use Instagram stories instead.
IGTV, yeah, all those things.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm. So what I hear you saying is don't feel like the shoulds need to take you over. Go back to the base of who you are and who your client is, what they're interested in, and see if that works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so going back to that fitness coach model, just because it works really
It
well
works. I
as
love
an
it.
example,
She's like my
then
bestie now. I love her. Keep going.
I know she's the best. Um, so going back to like that fitness coach model, there will be people who want a fitness coach because they want to lose weight. There will be people who want a fitness coach because they want to get their pre-baby body back.
Mhm,
So, which is a little bit different
mhm.
from the people who want to lose weight. It may be about losing weight, but it may be about being stronger. It may be about finding a place to hang out with other grown-ups. And then there are people who want a fitness coach because they want to shave a minute off of their mile
Mhm.
because they're already at an athlete place and they want to step it up further. So you're having a very different conversation for each of those three. So getting back to that is super helpful in terms of figuring out what you're going to be talking about and who you're going to be talking to.
That is so good. This has been so beneficial. Is there anything you'd add to the mix of figuring out your brand?
You know, just take your time, keep it consistent, give yourself permission to try, because if you're not out there, then you're not getting the clients. So really there's a lot of self-forgiveness around it, but there's a lot of like, get up and keep going,
Mhm,
because you're the person who has to build your business.
mhm.
So, yeah. And I would always come back to that piece around permission and self forgiveness. We are humans trying to like run a life and build a business and do a lot of things. And so it's really okay to try a thing and find out that that isn't your thing. Your business will grow just as you will grow, and it will change just as you will change. And that is a natural process.
I love that. Helen Tremethik, thank you so much. Where do we find you? Because you, by the way, I should mention, you actually do sessions with people to like help them. So if you're like, I get it, but I just need someone to hold my hand,
I
Helen will hold your
do.
hand.
I do. That is the work that I love the most is in the hand holding and support and advisory role. So you can find me at the Communications Distillery, which is communicationsdistillery.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Helen Tremethik. But what you were just talking about there were clarity sessions. And if you feel stuck, if you're like, oh, I was just listening, but I'm really just not sure where
Mhm.
or how or what my real message is, that is really the land that I live in. And we can sit down for an hour and talk it out and figure out your best direction today.
Love it. Love it. And I should mention that the word is out. You are part of the summit coming up, Network Marketers Social
I am.
so excited. That's coming up later this month. And if you're not part of it, I'll put the link up so you can be part of it. But I mean, you can be there, hear more from Helen and some other great people who really want to help you get this thing right. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you and your
Thank you,
time.
Roxanne.
I didn't hear any of boats. You didn't sing "Oh Canada." I didn't hear Maple Leaf, but it's okay. It's
You'll,
okay.
you'll have to come up to visit.
Yes, I would love to and see the chickens, right? The chickens.
Indeed. Chickens, ducks, cats, dogs, you got
Every
it all.
picture on the tractor. I'd need a picture on the tractor for Instagram. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
You heard Helen and I talk about a very special event that's coming up later this month. It is the Social Media for Network Marketers Summit. It's the MLM Summit. Listen, here's what I did. I heard what you needed. I heard what you wanted. I heard what you're having issues with. You're trying to figure out how to get your social media to work for your business. And rather than just listening to me, which I appreciate, I brought in experts from all of the fields, all the things, and we are doing a 3-day summit at the end of this month so that you can figure out the goods. You can hear from the experts on how they do it, how they coach it, and how you can implement it in your life. If you would like more information about the summit, awesome sauce. It's you signups are not yet. So I'm like being a little teasy, I know. But if you go to RoxTalks podcast, click on this episode, there will be a link that'll get you on the waiting list so that you can sign up for the amazing summit and be part of it. You do not want to miss this. All right, take care. It's time for another mindset moment. I feel like because we're talking about branding today and it's getting your thought process, those juices flowing, I thought we should really talk about what happens if you feel like you don't know who you are. You ever have that like, who am I? I might be selling this thing, but I don't even know who I am. And so I want to stop you for a moment before you go down that bunny trail of life that's trying to lie to you. You know who you are. You know who you are, and or somebody can and if you feel like you don't, then I want you to lean on someone who knows you and who can remind you who you are. I was doing a group training session with my clients about content creation recently. And one of my clients, she's like, I don't have anything. I, I don't even know what I would talk about. I'm not, who am I? And rather than let her get away with that, because I don't let people get away with much, especially when they're lying to themselves, I was like, really? You don't? Okay. So, y'all, people who know her, we'll call her, I don't know, what are we going to call her? I don't know. Because I'll say her name. So, person. And so what I loved was people unmuted themselves and got on and affirmed her and told her what an amazing person she was. They're like, are you kidding? You're amazing mom. You help us with this, you do that, all these things, reminding her of who she was. And I want to let you know, if you're in that moment where you're just so overwhelmed or you're just feeling and you feel like you don't know who you are, that's when you lean on whether it's your partner or your power partners, your friends, and say, can you remind me who I am? Because the mirror is foggy. I need some help. Sometimes with our mindset, we need to hear from others because we are just empty. But when they do that, I want you to do me this favor. Write down those good ends because it's gonna be hard to receive it because you can't even think about it. You're like, oh, that feels weird. Write down what they said. Write down what they said that was good. It's all good. And then I want you to read it and say it out loud like you are. I am an amazing mother. I am an amazing business person. I pour into my friends. I share with them. I'm there for them. I am an encourager. Give great advice, whatever it may be. I want you to read it to yourself out loud. I want you to write it and then read it. Don't write. If they write it and send it to you, then you write it in your words and I want you to read it. And I want you to do that for a week until you start, or longer, until you start believing it and you start adding things to it. This will help you get to a point where you're even able to go, oh, yeah, I do have a brand. I am an expert and I do have things to share. And so let me figure out this brand, like we were talking about today, and make it happen. All right, I'll be right back with your tech tip. All right, we're back with the tech tip, and it has to do with Instagram today. My question for you is, are you using Instagram to its full capabilities? Mike, why do I ask you that? Because what I find is you're working on your Instagram, you're rocking it, and then when you meet someone, you're like, hey, are you on Facebook? Why are you finding them on Facebook? You need to find them on Instagram because by now I would hope that your Instagram is set up the way that it should be. Hopefully you've learned from me and you've got it down. And as a result, it's the best place that people can go to find out a little bit about you. You've got a great profile, hopefully, going on. Your highlights are things you want them to see. You've got the stories rocking, and of course, your posts. So, how do you do it easily and quickly? If you go to Instagram, and if you're watching, I'm showing you. If you go to Instagram and you click on the three lines on the top, it has something called the name tag. The name tag will actually show this name tag a little picture. So if you're on the fly meeting someone quickly, yes, you can put it in quick, like here's, you find each other and you link, or you can pull up the name tag. And what you do is you either have them take a picture. There's a little button at the bottom that says scan a name tag. It'll allow you to do exactly that, to scan a name tag. You have an opportunity to scan it, and the name tag is what is your name tag, or vice versa. So take the moment. First of all, you're going to seem pretty savvy because most people don't use this. And when you scan it, it's going to pull up the person's bio immediately, and they can hit click, and follow. Okay, so try that. Again, it's called name tag. It's when you go to the top right-hand corner, the three lines, click there and then name tag, and that's a quick way to get each other's information. But at the very least, make sure that you are connecting on Instagram when you meet someone. You follow each other and then immediately send a note. I usually send a note like either with a picture of myself or I say, hey, it was great meeting you in that moment. so that I don't forget if you're meeting a lot of people where to meet them, or where's that communication going, or maybe you started following more than one person that day and you can't remember who it is. All right, so that's my tech tip, and we're going to be right back with your behind the scenes. So when this episode is recording, I have just closed the cart on the challenge, which was fantastic. And I will talk to you about it coming soon. So the March challenge, a couple things I learned from the March challenge, I'll talk to you about it right now, is January is a tough time for people. While I would think, hey, everyone's like, rockin', yes, I want to do a challenge. Beginning of January is actually tough. So in the future, I would probably reconsider that. However, I have to say it went very well. Um, all of the numbers and whatnot went congruent with the amount of people that I had that were in the challenge. So I'm excited about that. I tried some new offerings, and I'm going to switch those. They'll be different next time. I'm just going to go straight with the membership, knowing what I know. I did offer something where you didn't have to be a member and you got some training, but here's the reality of it. The transformation comes from being in the community and doing, yes, all the trainings, all the things that I offer, but being in that community. When you do the one off, it doesn't make a difference. Interesting enough, nobody signed up for the starter kit that didn't have the membership, so there's that, and it probably just confused people. So I'm just going to go with my three. These are my three things. You pick these three things. You don't pick me at all. That's awesome. But these are the things that I know they're going to give you a transformation. So that was a big learn. I loved the setup. Probably going to do it the same way, as in like how long the cart's open, what I'm offering, doing that webinar for people the night before, all of the things. I could show up a little bit more on social media while I'm on it. I'll be honest with you, because I pour so much into doing the live sessions and critiquing. It does create my personal social media suffers a little bit more. So I've got to reevaluate that. But I would rather spend the time on my challengers than not at all. So anyhow, that's that. What I want to tell you about also is I'm in the depths of really working on this social media for network marketers summit that's going to be coming up at the end of February. So I'm working with my team and really building that out so that it is something that is so robust and will really help you move the needle in 2020 for your social media. Social media is a living organism and they're all different. And so you're going to hear from experts in LinkedIn, in Instagram, on Instagram, I should say, on Facebook, but not just Facebook, the little elements of Facebook, and even TikTok. We're going to rock it all, and Pinterest, hello. So it's really going to be a great summit. I'm very excited that it has a focus on social media because that's my heart. And I want you to figure out not only how to work that, but how then to get the people off of social media and onto your list and into your business. So that is coming up. It is a free summit, and you can find out more information about it. In fact, I'm going to just tell you right now, because what I'm going to do before this airs is I'm going to put at least a waiting list on there, so you can be on the waiting list and find out exactly when you can sign up for it. It is coming up. Signups are coming up super soon by the time you're listening to this. So if you would like to get on the waiting list, you can do two things. You can just go to this website, RoxTalks podcast, click on this episode with Helen, and you can grab it right there. Or if you want to just bypass that and you want to go straight to the link is socialmlmsummit.com. Socialmlmsummit.com. Okay. So there's that. I am looking forward to all of these. I hope you're enjoying and you're getting a lot out of these conversations in this podcast. What I would really love for you to do is pass it on. Don't hide it under a bushel. If it's something that's helping you, that means it's going to help someone else. So please share the RoxTalks podcast with someone you know who needs to hear all this goodness. Also, I would love for you to screenshot a copy of the episode you're watching and tag me, RoxTalks, on Instagram stories. I will tag you and shout you back out if there's something you learned from it. I'd love to hear that as well too. And if you have something or someone you would love to hear on the podcast, you'd love to hear us have a conversation that can help you, please don't hesitate to email Roxanne. Hello, Roxanne at roxannewilson.com. Thank you guys so much. You're such a joy. And I want you to remember that you are not ahead, you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. See you next week. Bye.